All right, my good people, what the hell is going on? Hope you're all doing well. Episode 5, Unnecessary Rambling, ready to go. Here we are on this beautiful Tuesday. If you're watching it as of recording it, it is a Sunday. So, thank you for stopping by and spending the next hour or so listening to my video game ramblings. I'm Brandon Sylvia and yeah, we got a good one for you today. It's actually again a really slow news week. There's only two news stories that popped up that I found interesting enough to include here today. So we'll briefly run through those, talk about some Grand Theft Auto 4, and then I got a little top 10 for you to close off the show. Was I've said before, if the news is light and if there's even if it's a big news week but none of it's catching my eye, I just don't include it on the show because then I'll be talking about shit that I either have no interest or no knowledge in, and that really doesn't serve anybody. So I was trying to think what would be a good little segment to introduce here. I was like, you know what? I think we got a good timely top 10 to dive into. So we'll close off the show with that. But without further ado, let's jump. Oh, before we get into it, I said that in the last show I would give you my night 2 WrestleMania night 2 review, and I watched the Monday Night Raw following that, and then the big news of Endeavor buying the WWE, the owners of the UFC buying the WWE. That was that was quite shocking. I know that the rumors had been flowing around for a bit of WWE just getting acquired by a bunch of different entities out there, but Endeavor makes a lot of sense. I'm curious to see if there are any major changes. I'm assuming probably not. It's probably going to be business as usual for WWE. That kind of does tie into night 2 of WrestleMania and Raw though, because the rumors out there are that Vince McMahon kind of once this deal was on the horizon started nudging his way back to like the head of creative, and you started to see some. I don't know. Maybe night 1 was just really good. The first night of WrestleMania was really, really solid. Every match that I watched was just damn good. And then the second night really drug, but I don't know. That could have been a coincidence. A lot of people are attributing that to McMahon kind of making some last minute changes, and then with Raw, the Raw after Mania, you saw a lot of those last minute changes start to take place, like with Seth Rollins had his promo cut, and a bunch of shit popped up that was a little bit odd. Brock Lesnar doing the whole angle where he was siding with Cody Rhodes and then ends up turning on Cody Rhodes, and then just a weird like Vince McMahon ass spot. That seemed very Vince McMahon esque. So I don't know. I was very positive leaving night 1 and thinking, okay, yeah, maybe with Triple H at the head of creative here and taking the reins and trying to steer the ship in a different direction, maybe I could get back into this a little bit. And yeah, and it's to be totally honest, I just when I watched Raw that next Monday, I just remembered how time consuming trying to stay up to date with wrestling is, and I was like, yeah, unfortunately, I think I'm gonna have to pass on this. I'll catch. I think I'll even watch Backlash, but I like my schedule for wrestling how it's been the last few years of watching Survivor Series, SummerSlam, Rumble, and Mania, and just keeping it to those 4. Maybe tuning in for like an Elimination Chamber, Hell in the Cell, like a big spectacle, Money in the Bank. But I can't follow Raw, SmackDown, pay per view, or Raw, SmackDown 3 times and then pay per view, and then like it's just I can't do it on a week to week basis. Got video games to play, man. So yeah, it's I would like to be compelled at some point to really really follow along with it. I, I just don't think now is the time for me, unfortunately. But who knows? They did announce on SmackDown that they're going to be doing a draft, so shaking up the rosters. I love drafts in general. I think it's just like one of the more entertaining things you can do in the world of obviously sports, but even like fantasy drafts for video games and shit like that. Like I love seeing things drafted and seeing where people, like if you have, you know, a top 10 list or whatever, if you're each team is drafting 10 video games or 10 whatever, it's like so interesting to sit there and follow along with. So I love drafts. So, you know, who knows, maybe something can pop up that hooks me back in. But yeah, overall, it started to definitely be kind of uh I'm not saying negative, but there was never, after night one, nothing from night two or the Raw following Mania caught those highs. So yeah, but not a bad show overall. Night one and night two, all things considered, night one was excellent. Night two had some good shit with Edge and Balor. I thought that was a really good match. Obviously, Roman and Cody, that was a great match with a very controversial finish there. But yeah, it was still not a bad show at all. It wasn't like I by the time I finished watching it was bummed out that I spent time watching it. So yeah, man, that is my thoughts on WrestleMania and the I guess the controversy or the just news surrounding wrestling or the WWE in general right now. So yeah, that's that. How about we kick off the show at large here and talk about some video games? Before we get into that, I do want to say the clips, we started uploading the clips here, and I uploaded two. It's really difficult uploading clips of yourself where you're like having to watch yourself speak and going, yeah, that's clip worthy. It's like, fuck, I don't feel like anything I say is quite clip worthy. It's just you know, sitting around rambling about video games. But you know, I know it's beneficial to get that out there, and that people do enjoy just having a 10-minute slice of a show and would rather watch 3 10-minute slices of a show than a full 30-minute show. Just you know, different people's schedules work differently, and some people can consume that easier, other people can consume a full 2 hour 3 hour whatever podcast easier while they're at work or you know, whatever the case may be. So I'm trying to remember that, you know, catering to the different audiences and the different people's choice of how they consume content. So gonna still try to get the clips out there, even though it is a weird thing where you're like having to clip yourself out being like, yeah, that's fucking great, I'm gonna throw that out into the world and see if it you know, see if it catches steam. But the clips will continue to go out there. So for those of you who enjoy watching it that way, you will have that still ready to go this week. And oh yeah, remember that those of you who are regulars of the show, hit me up in the comments of this episode or the full main episodes, because I'm going to monitor these, the full episodes. I'm going to monitor the comment sections of these opposed to the clips. It's just a lot easier for me to monitor one thread of comments than like a bunch of different clips. So yeah, hit me up in the comment section if you have questions or thoughts or whatever in the full episodes. You know, if you want to just leave a positive comment on the clips, you know, and feed the algorithm, I'd greatly appreciate it. But it's a lot easier for me to monitor. Like if you want to shoot the shit, it's a lot easier for me to monitor the full episodes. So yeah, and with all the, oh yeah, go watch me and Jen. We from Retro Rivals, we reviewed Resident Evil 4, the remake. And I think it's a really damn good review. It's a spoiler review. So for those of you who haven't finished, you know, finish it first and then go watch it. But I think it's I think we did a damn good job of reviewing it. And it was a fucking blast to just nerd out over Resident Evil 4 with Jen from Retro Rivals. So it's on their channel under their live stream section on their YouTube. So go and check that out. I think we did a pretty damn good job covering the game, and it was a really, really good time. So go over there and check that out if you have not. And if you have finished Resident Evil 4 and you're looking for some deep dive conversation surrounding the game, and from two people who really enjoyed it, then I think get a lot out of that. So, with all that out of the way, let's get on with the show. So, like I said, I've been playing Grand Theft Auto 4 for really the first time in a decade or so. And when I first played Grand Theft Auto 4, I really didn't enjoy it, if I'm being totally honest. It just didn't click with me. I liked the more arcadey style driving, and just it had a more bleak tone that was a little bit off-putting to me at the time, and I just could never really get into it and finish it. This is the only mainline Grand Theft Auto game I never finished, and so going back to it was a at first, I gotta say, it was really shocking to me how poorly this game has aged. Like, with the auto lock on shooting and shit, I was just like, "Oh my god, this is abysmal." And then the weird camera that's, like, spinning all over the place when you're using the handbrake when, like, when you're drifting, the camera's spinning all over the place. It's, like, hard to get any real control of it, and I was like, "Oh my god, this thing has aged so, so poorly." And then I went into the settings, was tweaking some shit. I was like, "Okay, let's" after probably 7, 8 hours of playing the game, I had auto aim on that whole time, and it was making the game brutally difficult for me. I was like, "What is going on here?" So I went to the settings, turned off auto aim, turned off the weird camera that spins all over the place when you're drifting, and I mean, those 2 little changes just totally were a game changer for my experience with Grand Theft Auto 4. It made it so much more enjoyable, almost to the point where, like, when I turned off the auto aim, that the game was like a breeze to get through. Like, with auto aim on, I was struggling, dying on almost every other mission. And then with it off, I'm just like blasting enemies in the head, one shot, they're done. It was so much more satisfying, such a better feeling. Like for whatever reason, that auto lock on shit in GTA 4, I feel like it's the worst auto lock on mechanic that any of the Grand Theft Auto games ever had. It's really, really rough. So for anyone wanting to go into it for the first time, especially if you're used to modern shooters and modern third person shooters, I would say for sure turn off that auto lock feature. It makes the game so much easier and just much better, in my opinion. It feels like a more modern standard third person shooter, which, like I said, once I did that, I had a much better time with the game overall. And I got to say that really the thing here, and to give a little bit of to preface all this, I am probably about 20 hours in, 18, 20 hours in, I would say. So I think I probably have 10 to 15 hours left before I finish the main story. And the story is excellent. It is absolutely fucking excellent. Like, up to this point, far and away the best Grand Theft Auto story I've ever experienced. And the fact that you are given so much agency in this story, it shocked me so much, because that's not like a typical feature for Grand Theft Auto. Getting to pick who lives and who dies, and seeing sort of the consequences of your actions play out later in the game, and who are you going to side with, and how is that going to affect the end game, and like those things that are not common features for Grand Theft Auto games at all. I wish someone would have told me this about Grand Theft Auto 4. That because this is like one of my favorite things in games is decision making, and this is all in-game decision making. You're on this big chase mission. You got, some crooked cop sent you to go kill somebody, and then when you get him cornered, you take out a bunch of his people, you get him cornered, and he's like, "Man, you're aligned with the wrong dude. This dude's corrupt. Don't kill me for this guy. This dude's totally corrupt." You're like, "Ah, shit." Am I going to live to regret working for this dude later on down the road? Am I working for, a crooked, corrupt cop who's trying to move his way up the ranks? And is he using me to do his bidding? Is he using me to eliminate all opposition that would prevent him from getting this high ranking position within his department? And so, like, you're considering all these different things before you choose to kill someone or to let someone live. And you're dealing with some family conflict later in the game, and uh, it's a really interesting story with a lot of betrayal and sabotage and just it really grips you. It gets you so into the narrative because you're constantly getting to decide the fate of important characters in this world, and the characters are just great across the board, with Nico Bellic, the main character, and kind of being like a world class fuck up for a lot of the game, and then sort of coming into himself over the course of the game, and you're starting to realize what's wrong with his mental makeup as the game starts to play out. And then he has his cousin Roman, who is like an absolute world class fuck up. If Nico's a level 7 fuck up, Roman's a level fucking 14. He's just top of the tier fuck up, but a heart of gold, sweetheart of a dude. He's a little bit more of a coward in a lot of ways, and Nico's the one that's usually getting his hands dirty, and that's the character you're playing as, Nico Bellic, and he grows on you. At first, I was like, I don't know. I felt zero attachment to him as a character. I didn't really. I didn't care about him one way or the other, but the more you play as him and the more you see his backstory start to kind of roll out, you get a lot more invested in Nico as a character. And you're going off, and you got these little like dates that you get to go on, and like they have a whole internet dating dating site set up that you can use, and like the different people you take out on dates, they have the different interests. So some people don't want to go to like a bar, or some people only want to go play pool, or some people, like, they all have their different things that they enjoy. And to, I guess, get a positive date out of them, you have to kind of know what they're into and make sure you're not taking them on dates that they're not interested in going on. So it's like just little funny things like that to help you get more out of these individual characters and more immersed in the world, while also kind of pushing you towards going off and doing some mini games and going off and shooting some pool and playing some darts. And like it's really fun how they contextualize all that and give some story beats to play out around the idea of like just kind of doing mini games, going bowling and all that shit. So I've had a really good time with Grand Theft Auto 4 in general. Like I said, it was a rough start for me with the auto lock on system, but after I really got all that shit straightened out and changed the settings, and I started having a much better time with it, just because the story is top tier. It's top tier world class storytelling. It's on par with some of the best stories I've ever experienced. It's really fucking good. But I will say, it is definitely dated in a lot of aspects, for sure. Like the checkpoints, it still has that kind of old Grand Theft Auto. It follows that old Grand Theft Auto path for the checkpoints, where if you fail the mission, you're starting back over from the beginning. Sometimes they'll give you like a little bit of a checkpoint where you don't have to go all the way back to the like go from the hospital to the mission to start the mission. Like, you can start the mission from a closer spot, but it's still like not your typical checkpoints, where if you're in a mission and the mission's taking you 30 minutes to get through it, and you're on the 28th minute of this 30-minute mission, and you end up dying, you're starting back over from the very beginning, and you're going to have to go through that whole entire mission again. So there's no like checkpoints within the missions. You have to start that bitch up back from scratch, and a lot of times do some driving to go and grab this dump truck over here, and then go and dispose of this before I get back to that. Like, it definitely has that old outdated sort of game design philosophy of very limited checkpoints. And there can come a point where you're 10 hours into the game, and you're like, shit, dude, I feel like I'm wasting especially, like I said, when I was dying all the time from having the auto lock on turned on. There was a point where I was like, man, I'm wasting a lot of fucking time just doing this shit over and over again because I just kept dying. I could not get my shit together. And but once I turned it off, I died far less frequently, and it became a much better overall experience. So, like I said, I would highly recommend turning that feature off if you do plan on playing Grand Theft Auto 4. But I I had a great time with it. I've had a really good time with it. I plan on probably putting, like I said, I think there's maybe 10, 15 hours left in the main campaign. Plan on finishing that this week, and I will come back and report to you next week with my final thoughts on old GTA 4. One last thing on GTA 4, I was scrolling through my notes here, and I forgot to mention this. This is hands down been my favorite moment, favorite mission of the game so far. It is one of the best chase sequences in the history of video games. It is like it gives you total control over everything that's going on. You're doing a mission for this dude Brucey, who is an absolute crackpot. The dude is out of his mind. He's a juice head, just steroid junkie that is like out of his fucking mind. He's a hilarious character, which there's actually, like I said, the GTA 4 is a lot more serious in tone just in general. It's a lot darker, a lot grittier, but there is still definitely elements of humor that you expect from Grand Theft Auto 4, and Brucey is one of those main guys who is very fucking funny from the moment you meet him. Like, he's just funny as hell throughout it. But you're doing this mission for Brucey, you're chasing down this dude, and the way that this chase sequence plays off, it is like it feels totally natural. It feels like all of these big moments, like you're chasing him down, and he'll hit a truck with logs on the back, and the logs will go toppling over. He hits a truck that's like carrying these crates, and these crates come falling out right in your way, and you're having to bob and weave to miss all this shit, and you never once take your hands off the controller. All of this shit is going on naturally in gameplay. Like, there's not 1 second of a cutscene for any of this shit, and it really does feel it's like all these predetermined moments that pop up, but it feels so natural when you're in the flow of it in gameplay. You're bobbing and weaving to avoid this shit so you can stay on the tail of this dude that you're chasing. And then just I think I should have gameplay of it, but the way that all of this shit is taking place, and the just the agency that you feel in what would usually be like some sort of cutscene or some sort of very scripted moment in gameplay, like it's totally giving you all the freedom in the world to fuck up or to do it correctly. And yeah, that's just like that's the best thing about Grand Theft Auto games, or big open world sandboxes in general. If they can design like very specific little missions that take advantage of the fact that you are in a big open world, and at any given time, if you hit that crate or you hit that log and you're on a bridge, and somehow your wheel gets caught up on the log and you topple over and your fucking car goes just spinning and then gets thrown off this bridge and you end up in the water. Like, there's just so many different little domino effects that can take place, and so many things that can happen inside of these open worlds. And whenever they really take advantage of the fact that you do have this sprawling open world with all these possibilities, taking out all the enemies with a sniper opposed to going in guns blazing, or just like giving you the freedom to do shit how you want to do shit. That's always been my favorite thing with the Grand Theft Auto games, and they absolutely give you plenty of that in Grand Theft Auto 4. So yeah, definitely been enjoying it, and like I said, I will finish up my thoughts on it next week. All right, so like I said, we don't have a ton of news to dive into today. We have two stories, and the first one is I don't even know, man. I don't even know what to say at this point. PlayStation is reportedly developing a handheld system, and this is coming from Tom Henderson at Insider Gaming. And this is let's just dive into this thing. It's codenamed Q-Lite. It is focusing on remote play, which will allow you to play all your PlayStation 5 console games if you have a good enough internet speed. But you will need a PlayStation 5 console to use it. And according to this report, there will be no games built for this hardware. There will be no games built for this handheld. So it's essentially just like a like a backbone or one of those controller like devices that you stick to your phone, except this is going to be an actual handheld, a Switch like, Steam Deck like device, supposedly. Because if the main feature that it's touting is that you can use remote play, you can use remote play on your phone with a backbone or just in general, So it's like, so you're building as a handheld like a Steam Deck, like a Switch, but you're not giving us first party content like a Switch. You're not giving us great exclusive games like a Switch, and you're not giving us accessibility and freedom and all these options like a Steam Deck, where we can go in and emulate any classic game we want. We can go in and play our entire Steam library and like all these different things. And you're developing an entire handheld system just built off of remote play where you have to go in and buy a $500 PlayStation 5 system to even be able to access it. This is similar in the insanity of PSVR 2. Go and buy a PlayStation 5 console, $500. Go and buy a PSVR 2, $500. You're $1,000 in, and we haven't even started talking about the games yet. And it's like, this almost even seems a little bit more insane to me because remote play is literally available right now. And you can just use it on your phone and go and get some cheap ass fucking I'm not saying backbone, but a cheap knockoff of backbone to stick to your phone and use the controller there. And if you already have a good enough internet speed, like, I don't understand what this reported handheld is offering at all. Like, there's from the report, like, there's nothing there that you seemingly just can't do on your phone right now. And along with that, they're not building any new games for it in general that you would need this device for. It's like, I just don't understand. Once again, maybe some wires were crossed. Maybe this will never see the light of day, this PlayStation handheld device, but I Tom Henderson has been reliable in the past, and I just PlayStation, they're in a weird groove. I mean, they've always, liked their little gimmick. Try a little bit of this, try a little bit of that, throw some shit at the wall, see what sticks. So who knows, man? Maybe somehow, or maybe the price will just be really low on this thing. That's the only way I could see this working. If they just develop like a little handheld device that is like the superior go-to way to play your games remotely, to use this remote play system. If they develop some sort of handheld that just takes full advantage of that and is built around that, and eh, I don't know. I'm trying to see how this could possibly work out in my head in lifetime. Maybe it's 150, $200, but we know Sony, man. This thing's gonna be at least $300, I would assume. And this just seems like a totally unnecessary product. Like, I don't know who would want this or need to use this. And I know I ranted last week about PSVR 2, and so I'm not trying to sit here and dog Sony and dog PlayStation 2 weeks in a row, but it's like, it's what do you say? What do you say at this point? It once again, for those of you who don't know me, my like favorite style of games are the style of games that Sony first party puts out. The Ghost of Tsushima's and Last of Us and Uncharted's and like all that's my favorite style of game in the world. I love the games that they put out. So I'm not a anti PlayStation, anti Sony guy. Like, my brain doesn't even operate in that world. But when I see very bizarre business moves, it does, like, especially when they're stacking up this frequently, and consistently, it's like, what the fuck is going on with Sony? What the fuck's going on with PlayStation right now? They're making some, hey, whatever. They're making moves. I guess you got to give them credit for doing some different shit. They also had the report of they're developing a controller that it like heats up when you're playing it and cools down when you're playing it for like the most immersive experience. Like they love their little gimmicks. They love their little gimmicks. You know, you dip down into the fucking icy oceans and the controller gets cold. You're on a hot streak in 2K and the controller gets hot. It's like, man, they love their gimmicks, but whatever. I hope the best. I just hope at the very least I hope this thing's $200 and it's like a whatever. Okay, go and use this as a substitute for the backbone type thing. I I don't know, man. Mario. This is coming from Benji Sales. The Mario movie says it's done it. The Super Mario Bros. Movie is officially the biggest opening ever for an animated movie, beating Frozen. Domestically, it is at 204 million. Internationally, 172. Globally, 377 million. 1 billion box office run is now locked in. Incredible result for Nintendo and Illumination, says Benji Sales on Twitter. Get your bag, Nintendo. This is fucking awesome. This is awesome. I know the critics have been um colder on this Mario movie, which like you kind of have to expect. You're talking about film critics going in and reviewing a Mario movie. It's not like film critics going in and reviewing the Last of Us TV show. Like you definitely have to have some nostalgia built in for Mario. You have to have some kind of history with that franchise to be able to appreciate that film, I'm sure. And to just have those, oh my God, I can't believe it's this character. Oh my God, I can't believe that happened. I remember that from the game. Like I'm sure there's a lot of that in that Mario movie that fans are really going to appreciate. But critics who don't have that built-in nostalgia, I doubt they're gonna get it or enjoy it or whatever the case may be. So it's not doing well with critics, but numbers don't lie. And this thing is moving tickets. This thing is making cash. And I love to see it. I love to see it. Whenever The Last of Us was a huge hit, I was pumped because to me, this is a sign, okay, these publishers have another reliable source of income, you know, outside of the video game development sphere, which hopefully in turn means that this money, these fucking billions of dollars that they're making outside of game development, they can pour back into game development. And for Nintendo fans, it's been a hot minute since y'all have had a sick ass new Mario game. And you got to imagine right now, Nintendo's like, we got to get back to the drawing board. Let's put a fucking, as soon as Switch 2 launches, we got to have Mario sitting right there because it's the zeitgeist. It's the moment. It's hype. People are fucking, you know, pumped around Mario right now. People are pumped around The Last of Us. And like, you know, there was that report that Naughty Dog was supposedly not working on the Last of Us Part 3 for their next like big game. We know Factions 2 is their next game, but their next like big single player endeavor, it seems to not be The Last of Us Part 3. And I like for me personally, I'm always a new IP guy. I love new IP. I love diving into a new world and then exploring it and trying to, you know, uncover the lore for these new worlds. Like I love that shit so much. But after the success of the HBO show, you got to imagine that PlayStation is Sony. They're kind of like, oh man, if we would have knew that this was going to blow up to this degree, and a part of me has to imagine that they did know it had the potential of blowing up to that degree. And yeah, it's like I don't know. I'm actually eagerly awaiting a Last of Us 3 now after that show. But regardless, the whole point of this rambling is that I just love that these publishers are getting the bag elsewhere and then hopefully pouring that back into getting us great games. And I've said this before, but I really love the idea of all these, you know, single player, narrative driven, gritty, and not even necessarily gritty all the time, but these more mature style games having a new audience in the film space, in the television space, who can appreciate stuff like The Last of Us, stuff like BioShock, stuff like Metal Gear Ghost of Tsushima and like Mass Effect, like those style of games having a brand new audience that they can explore with a real budget behind them and then real money put into it, like with Illumination and Mario and with HBO and The Last of Us, and really getting some fucking a new set of eyeballs on these great storylines. And the fact that if we if you do see this trend of these mature games being or catching on with a different audience and having serious results in the film and television space, I just think it will encourage developers more to make games like that. And those are my favorite style of games. I love a good, gripping, hard hitting, mature narrative in the video game space. I think it's like the best way to experience story because it's so unexpected, unpredictable. There's no time restraints. So much more can be done there. You build up such a uh, you build up so much more of a investment in these characters and attachment to these characters by controlling them and being invested in their journey. So like if these things can catch on with a different audience, that's all the better for me. And for those of you out there like me who just love these gritty, mature, storylines. So I'm hoping that I'm saying all of that while talking about Mario's humongous success. So I think it's not just obviously it's not only going to be these mature storylines, but you know seeing things like The Last of Us take off, and hopefully the Ghost of Tsushima movie and the Metal Gear movie and the BioShock movie. I hope shit like that starts to take off as well. That way we get more games similar to that. But even in Mario's case and in other games case who aren't necessarily that gritty fucking mature realistic shit, I hope those take off as well. That way that money can be poured back into the development of new games in those franchises, and we can just keep getting great shit in this industry because we made a lot of money, or they made a lot of money outside of this industry, and then just bring it all back around and yeah, give us more good games, man. I think this is all a real positive. And I've seen some people that are like, well, there's too many video game movies out there. Da, da, da. It's like, dude, shut the fuck up. Let's take this money. Let's take this money and getting great new video games out of it. Like I'm pumped for the success of Mario. I have no interest in seeing that movie at all, but I'm so fucking pumped. So pumped for the success of Mario. I really am because I I imagine we'll be getting a new Mario sooner rather than later because of this success, or not only because of the success, because Mario games always sell like hotcakes, but I'm sure the success of this movie doesn't hurt at all. Oh, actually, I do have one more news story here. I want to talk about everything that caught my eye at the ID at Xbox event. There were a few games that, and then the reason I like there was stuff there like Last Case of Benedict Fox and Vampire Survivors DLC, but like I really want to talk about things that stood out to me that I had never seen before or had never heard of, or maybe were announced for the first time. Like these are all games that were totally off my radar until watching this event. So I do want to give those a shout out real quick. We'll briefly run through this. First game, The Carters 2. This is a like split screen, obviously inspired by Mario Kart, Crash Team Racing, but it looks like a really damn high quality kart racer game. And anything offering up some good split screen, local multiplayer action, it immediately catches my eye because we're getting so few local multiplayer games nowadays. It doesn't have a release date right now, but it's saying a 2023 window. This one definitely caught my eye. It really did look like a pretty damn high quality kart racer, Mario Kart CTR inspired title. Next up, we have Closer the Distance. This is a really interesting concept here. You are essentially like playing as the spirit of a woman who died in a car accident, and you're trying to like look over your community and heal them as that woman. You're like helping them heal, and it's almost this sim-esque management gameplay system. and it has like some decision making added in on top of it. And for the concept alone, I'm really curious about this game because I don't think I've ever heard of anything like this, and it just seems to be coming from a really pure, passionate place that you never want to wish this, but the whole car accident story and feeling like a loved one from up above is looking down and trying to like help you heal. Like I don't know, that just sounds like that maybe came from a place of reality, unfortunately, for the developer who wrote this story up. So I don't know, just it from what I saw, it felt like very I, I don't know, inspired, very purposeful. So yeah, shout out to just the concept alone there. Closer the distance. That definitely caught my eye for the I guess the passion of it or the spirit of it, whatever word I'm trying to formulate there that I can't really get a grasp on. Next up, the Cabaret. This is a cute visual novel, and I never saw it before, and it actually shadow dropped. It was out today. It was announced at ID at Xbox and dropped the very same day. So Cabaret, check it out. It's out today. Um, this was probably the number 2 standout of the show, this next game. The Explorator, I believe, I'm saying that right, the Explorator. This was, the art style is fucking unbelievable here. It's a first person shooter with this comic book art style. We didn't get like a deep dive look at the gameplay, and if I'm being honest, the little bit that we did see of gameplay wasn't like, never before seen first person shooter action, but the art style is absolutely stellar. It's so unique and sets this game apart from anything else on the market. It's like instantly recognizable. The art style is instantly recognizable from the character models to the just the color palettes that they use. It's just a wholly unique game. So definitely, I would say this is number 2 for my favorite games that were shown off at this ID at Xbox event. This was very, very unique looking and maybe the most unique looking just from an art style perspective of anything that was shown off. But my game of the show, absolutely, definitively, without a doubt, is Little Guardsman. And this is you're playing as this kid who is covering for her dad as a guard for this castle, and it's like this point and click Monkey Island inspired narrative adventure. And it says that you'll have run-ins with like 100 different characters, and you'll decide the fate of a lot of these characters along the way. And it also has like a little time manipulation mechanic added in there as well, which I'm really interested to see how that is implemented into the game. It just looks fucking excellent. The humor is incredible. The art style is incredible. Like having some decision making going on in there. It just looks like a really fun, charming, humorous game to blast through in a couple days and get a really just a nice humorous narrative, a nice point and click humorous narrative adventure to follow along with. This really stood out to me. I'm there. I don't even need to see more on this. Just from the little bit that we got, the writing was so solid, the humor was so solid, the art style. Like I said, this is for sure my game of the show for ID at Xbox, the April 2023 event. This for sure. Little Guardsman stood out in my opinion, more than anything else there was damn solid. So yeah, I just wanted to throw some of those on your radar if you didn't, catch the event or catch the release or the press release showing everything that was revealed at this ID at Xbox event. There was actually some good shit that I had never seen before that popped up there. So I just wanted to give a quick shout out to some of that stuff. And yeah, hopefully there was something in there that caught your eye as it did mine. So, yeah. All right, guys. So it is now time to close off the show with the timely top 10 that I was talking about here. And it's time for the top 10, my personal top 10 favorite Resident Evil games of all time. And I'm going to rapid fire through these. Once again, this is not Metacritic's top 10. This is not IGN's top 10. This is my personal top 10 favorite. So, very subjective. Number 10, Resident Evil 1, the remake. I know that this is a lot of people's favorite Resident Evil game of all time. I just don't have that built-in nostalgia for Resident Evil 1, but I still love it. The Lisa Trevor stuff, the Crimson Heads, the fucking Spencer Mansion, all things I very much appreciate. Number 9, Resident Evil 2 Revelations. Or Resident Evil Revelations 2. I love the setting. I think it's a creepy ass setting. Especially like the prison sections towards the beginning. You can throw Revelations 1 in there as well. For me, I personally enjoyed Revelations 2 a little bit more. Getting Barry Burton and Claire Redfield. It was just, yeah, I love Revelations 2. I really enjoyed that game quite a bit. Number 8, Resident Evil Code Veronica. I think this was like the perfected formula for the tank-based controls. And, you got the Wesker storyline going on there. You got the Ashford family storyline going on there. Very creepy, very dark, very difficult game that very much needs a remake. Number 7, Resident Evil 7. A game that I appreciate a lot more than I enjoy. I just appreciate that it took Resident Evil back home to real survival horror. And this is probably the scariest Resident Evil game ever. I think most people would say, and I don't really disagree with that. The Baker family, the set pieces, the big moments, like it's a spooky ass game with just fantastic fucking gameplay with a real return to survival horror. And even if it's not like fighting the mold in certain parts of RE7 I don't love, I just appreciate the fuck out of this game, like totally appreciate it for sending Capcom back on the direction that they're on now with the Resident Evil franchise. Number 6, RE3 from 1999. I love the remake, but there is like a ton of cut content from that remake. And the clock tower shit and the making the decisions, like all of those little features in RE3 from 1999 are really, really memorable. And, you're talking about also the spontaneous nature of Nemesis in the original. Even if it was like predetermined and set up, it just felt so much more spontaneous. And he just always felt like he was lurking around the corner. And however they pulled that off to make it feel so natural was just really goddamn impressive. Number 5, RE2, the remake from 2019. As perfect of a remake as you can really get, just nailed all the aspects of the feel of Resident Evil 2 while modernizing the controls and the mechanics and the visuals. And, we'll talk a little bit more about it later. But RE2, the remake, is a fucking phenomenal game. The limb dismemberment, the gore, like incredible. Number 4, Resident Evil 8. I fucking love Resident Evil 8. Fucking love it, man. Going from fighting the mold and shit in Resident Evil 7 to having the werewolves and all these badass enemies that you're taking on, and the snowy set pieces, and kind of giving you that Resident Evil 4 feel to the world and to the environments. And then obviously Lady Dimitrescu, and you just had a lot of iconic enemies popping up. And yeah, I thought the gameplay was just tremendous. Balls to the wall action a lot of the time, but had a couple moments that were like truly fucking spooky in RE8. So I just had so much fun with it. Number 3, Resident Evil 4 from 2005. And this is I went back and played a little bit of it after playing the remake. And yeah, let's just go on to number 2. Resident Evil 4 from 2023. I think they're right next to each other when I think of importance and influence and just being a revolutionary sort of experience. I really think RE4 from 2005 is like the much more kind of ambitious, important game. But when I think of like what is my favorite version of that, after playing the remake, I went back and tried to play the original. I was like, there's no way I'll ever play this again, I don't think. Like, the remake is just the definitive way, in my opinion, for me at least, to play that game. It's just the updated controls, the movement and shooting, the parry system, everything. The swapping the weapons on the D-pad, being able to aim with the grenade, not having Ashley's health meter. Like, I love all the updates and the modernization of Resident Evil 4. It worked fucking perfectly for me. So yeah, I have to put RE4 2023 at number 2. RE4 from 2005 at number 3. I respect and appreciate how influential, how important this game was for the evolution of third person shooters in general. But for me personally, in terms of what I would go back to now, I don't see myself really ever replaying after playing the remake. It had its time, its place, and it's as important as any game ever. But I just think the remake's a better, much better version of that. But number one for me, despite all that I just said about RE4 the remake being the modernized way to go for playing Resident Evil 4 now, the definitive way to play it, Resident Evil 2 from 1998 is still my number one, my favorite Resident Evil game of all time. Modernization be damned. This is just perfect to me. This is video game perfection to me. I don't think it can get much better than RE2 from 98, from the lighting to the charm to the world, the atmosphere, the controls. Like it's a time and place thing. If you don't have nostalgia for it, I totally get it. But it's fucking perfect to me. It's perfect. I've replayed this thing probably 50 fucking times, and I enjoy it more with every replay. I love it so damn much. And yeah, I don't think I'll ever be pulled off of that nostalgic hill for Resident Evil 2. I think it'll always, you know, be number one for me on my top 10 Resident Evil games list. So number one, RE2 from 1998. So that's it for me, man. I appreciate you all for tuning in. I hope you have had a good weekend. Hope you're having a good work week, and yeah, taking it easy, enjoying existence, and then playing some video games. And yeah, man, hit me up in the comments. Let me know what you thought of the show. Let me know any of your top 10 Resident Evil lists or whatever the hell you want to talk about. Hit me up in the comment section down below. And yeah, man, take it easy. See you guys next week. Goodbye.